Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and also my long-awaited book haul video. I have technically a total of 53 books that I'm going to be covering in this book haul, and some of them I do have kind of duplicates of, only because I switched out if I had a paperback for a hardback so that it would complete the whole series in hardback, or also I did not include some of the ones that I ended up giving away. One book in particular is The Devil Takes You Home. This was a book of the month from, I think it was August 2022. I did read it and I hated it. I just unhauled it, and the people I went to go sell to, they accepted it, and I used that as store credit to buy me some more books. These are all the books that are also relative on my physical TBR, but more importantly, my TBR, what I really wanted to read, with a few exceptions of a certain series or a couple different books that I did not know even existed, and I seen them out when I was thrifting, so I did pick them up. And I did create a little bookstore shopping vlog, or more of like a thrift shopping vlog, and that is the video prior to this. I can link it down in the description. It wasn't extremely good. It's not what you see all these really big YouTubers filming when they do bookstore videos. For my first one ever, I feel like it was a good start, a good base to potentially build on. I'm sitting, you can kind of see right here, I'm sitting right by my bookcase, and this is just a small 3-tier that actually my grandfather made for a whole set of encyclopedias, and I currently use it right now for all of my books, more of just my physical TBR, but I do have some other ones right next to me, and I'm doing it this way, that way I don't have to pull out every single book and then try and put it back, because I've rearranged this whole 2 shelves. The top one usually stays the same because they're all Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys, but other than that, I've rearranged these last 2 shelves so many times in the past couple weeks, actually months, while I've been adding to this book haul. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it. I actually made on Excel a whole spreadsheet, and on the second page, which is the last page technically, I have at the bottom a total of what I spent, and this is over the course of many months. I would say more like 3, maybe even 4, except for the fact that here in the past month I did spend about 112 of the dollars, only because that was mine and my husband's deal for our anniversary presents. I bought him a shift knob for his Focus. That was $112, and I equally got to spend that much on books wherever I wanted, and for the most part I thrifted just because it was the most bang for your buck. You're just not 100% guaranteed on what you can and can't have. And then we also got other little gifts, like for $60 from Facebook Marketplace, each of us got something, and I got a whole new set of wheels, which I'm so happy and excited about with my truck. And then my husband got a privacy screen that never came with his Focus but was supposed to be there. So we spent a good portion, and at the end of this video I will tell you the total amount over the course of multiple months. Also with the spreadsheet, I went in order for the most part, not in order of the books that I bought, but like I tried to keep series together or even authors together. That way it's a little bit more easy when I'm going through it all, because that's kind of how I organize. First book that technically I don't have, but I do have a switch out, The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. Technically I found a hardcover version of this, same exact cover, at Deseret Industries out here in Nevada for only $2, but then I went on Thrift Books because I mainly have the paperbacks, but I never seen the paperback one of this specific book in thrift stores. I only ever seen a hardback, so I finally bought it for only $2. And then on Thrift Books, technically this book would have been $4.69, but because I had a free book with my points, I actually got this one for free, and that is the only reason I got this one. And now I have a complete series in paperback. I had The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Girl Who Played with Fire, and also The Girl in the Spider's Web. This one, The Girl Who Takes an Eye for an Eye, I had to pick up, and this one I did get on Thrift Books as well, and I spent $4.29 on this specific copy. And then for the first time in probably I'd say 12 to 20 books from ordering off of Thrift Books, they duped me. I ordered technically this cover of The Girl Who Lived Twice, but instead they sent me the movie adaptation version, or the movie, I'm gonna assume this is the movie one, I don't know. They sent me this cover and it doesn't match, so I did get this one and I was gonna keep it until I eventually found this version. But on Thrift Books I actually paid $5.29 for this book, and then yesterday at Las Vegas Books, it's a used thrift store, I paid $3.99 for this particular book, so I kind of lost about $5 or more between the two. But now I finally have a complete series with all matching books, except for the fact that I think there's just a last book that just came out. For $3 at Deseret Industries, I did pick up The Heart and the Fist. I've always loved military/history books, and this one in particular just seemed really interesting, and I've seen it a lot actually in thrift stores. I think I've seen like 3 different copies, so I did pick it up just because I was kind of curious about it, and I had just read American Sniper at the time, so I was still in that wanting to read it, and then I got out of that mood for a hot minute, so I haven't honestly picked it up. And then we have my favorite series that I think I've read all year, and technically this is 0.5. It is Saint. It is Congratulations to the Fable series, which I'll kind of post right here. The Fable series is one of my favorite series. Literally, you jump straight into action. I just had such a fun time. It is YA, it's fantasy. It's so easy to read those books in one sitting, in one day. And even though they're like 300 pages, you're just so wrapped into the books. And also the first book does end on a major cliffhanger, so I would recommend picking up Namesake secondly. But my reading order for the books would be Fable, Namesake, Saint, because this one has 2 spoilers in it for the last 2 books. And then I would read The Last Legacy, because Last Legacy is kind of like this one. It's the same world, just 2 different people. Fable and Namesake is about Fable. Saint is about her father and mother. And then technically The Last Legacy is just somebody that you kind of know of their family. It's the same world, but like I said, just different people. These covers are so beautiful. The actual books, most of them have maps in them, and also they all have imaging on the actual books, and it's just, they're just all around great books. They're very beautiful, and I would love to display this whole series eventually one day. I did have to order this off Amazon because nowhere really had it, and it was actually cheaper to order it off Amazon than go through and order it on thrift books, surprisingly. I did pay $15.99, and it might have been because Amazon had a sale at the time, because I think it was closer to 20, and I think on thrift books it was like 17. But I did pay $15.99, which is not my normal price on books. While thrifting for my anniversary present, I said that if I seen any Adrena Young book that I would pick it up, and that's just because of how Fable was. So I seen The Girl That the Sea Gave Back at Las Vegas Books, but it was $7.99. I did pay a little bit more than I wanted to. This is also the second book in a series. It's only a duology, so I'm only missing the first one, which is really good. And I wanted to pick up this series anyways. It was on my Goodreads TBR, and I was very excited when I seen it. So I'm hoping that any other series from her is going to be just as good. From thrift books at $6.19, I picked up the all-known, all-famous Beach Read, and I did already read this one, so you might have seen it here on my channel if you are more returning. And at the same time, at $5.99, I did pick up People We Meet on Vacation in that same order off thrift books. Then we move on to a bunch of books from one author in particular from Goodwill for $3.99, but if you take into account military discount, I only paid $3.59. We have Ellen Hildebrand's A Summer Affair. Golden Girl for $4.99, also at Goodwill, but I only paid $4.49 for this book after the military as well. Summer of '69 at Savers for $3.49. And then finally The Rumor at Goodwill for $2.99, but with the military discount, it's $2.69 is what I paid. And everything from Goodwill will always have a military discount. So pretty much I'll give you 2 prices, what it was originally and then what I paid for it. That way I don't have to keep repeating that it was military discount, because I know it will get very, very old. At the thrift store on base, I paid 25 cents for Cell, Stephen King's Cell, and I did already read this one as well. I rated this one 5 stars. I just don't like this cover compared to the one that my mom had, which is like the original cover, more that has like the Nokia on it instead of a touchscreen, because this was actually created in, I think it was like 2005, 2006, so the touchscreen was not very accurate. Then at the Airman's Attic, which is technically behind the thrift store, everything there is completely free on base. It doesn't matter if it's something that's donated like a gym set and they put it in the Airman's Attic, it's going to be free. And they do have a lot of books. I think they kind of rotate from the thrift store, but I found the stands for free. And this book in particular, I tried reading last year. It's the only book I DNF'd, and only because of all the point of views in the book, it just kind of confused me. But I feel like because I have the older version, it's a lot tinier. It's more close to this size in width, but it's a lot shorter than this book. I feel like it was kind of hard to hold because it's a pretty chunky book. Both of them are. I think the other one I have is just as chunky as this one because it's 1140 pages. This font in this book in particular is just so much better, and also how it's so floppy. I feel like it's just going to be so much easier to read this. And since I wanted to retry reading the stand and not necessarily DNF it, I wanted to get a better copy, and then I seen this for free at the Airman's Attic and I was like, perfect timing. Then at Goodwill, I found a whole complete series. One book, the very last book, is not the same version of the rest of the books, and you'll see that here in a minute. Technically, all of these books, every single one of them were $1.99, but I only paid $1.79, which also the series is very popular right now in Goodwill. I don't know if they hoarded the series and then decided to release it, or if everybody just decided to donate it all at once. I just see it in every single thrift store around here, and especially Goodwill's. First we have After, then After We Collided, After We Fell, After Ever Happy. I hate this version because I always just want to say Happy Ever After, which I understand why she did After first. And then lastly, you can see the new cover for Before. If you've been to my channel, you might know that I recently just read for the first time the Harry Potter series, and I technically had more hardcovers than soft covers. I seen this in Deseret Industries for $3, and I wanted to go ahead and pick it up because I had a paperback version of this book, and this is like brand new condition. So I now have the hardback and I'm collecting this generation because I had already collected it in the early 2000s. I just decided to mix some of them paperback and then have majority of them hardback. So now I finally have one less paperback. Now we go on to another author, which I feel like a lot of people, most people have heard, but I don't know how many people actually read. For $1 at Desert Industries, I have Nicholas Sparks' 2x2. Then at Goodwill for $3.99, but I paid $3.50, we have The Guardian. I replaced my other version, which if you've seen my unhaul, you'll see that version in there. It was kind of ripped on the spine, but more importantly, it was just the real small, like the size of your hand type book. So I wanted just the normal traditional paperback. Also at Goodwill for $4.99, but I paid $4.49, we have Dreamland by Nicholas Sparks, and I just literally finished this book. I found The Best of Me at Goodwill for $3.99, but I paid $3.59. Then A Bend in the Road at Savers for $4.49, which was kind of expensive, I feel like, for Savers, but at the same time, it's still not a bad price, especially for a hardback. And this is the more generation or covers that I wanted besides his newer stuff that I wanted to collect. And also I wanted more hardback, but I do have a mix between hardback and paperback. And then the last Nicholas Sparks book is The Rescue that I found at Las Vegas Books for $5.99. Technically, Nicholas Sparks books are just a really fun, easy read that I can just, if I'm in a slump, I can read, and then I know they're gonna be pretty much 4 stars with the exception of some of them, and they're gonna help pull me out of a slump. So I do still get a lot of his books, and I used to only have about 12, maybe 20 at the most, but I think I'm now closer to 20 just because I have picked up 7 extra Nicholas Sparks books. So we might be over 20 books now, finally, from him. Next at Desert Industries, I seen a whole collection or a whole series, and technically I already had this whole complete series, but it was paperback, and I didn't want this last book that I haven't gotten yet to be in paperback. I wanted that one in hardcover. I did find The Hunger Games. This was only $1 for this one in particular, $2 for Catching Fire, and also $2 as well for Mockingjay. And like I said, I wanted hardback for the Ballad of Songs and Snakes, or you know, whatever that last book is. I wanted to have a hardcover because they're more likely to be all the same height, hopefully. I say that now. And I also have never read The Hunger Games, so that will be a first for me as well. At Goodwill for originally $3.99, but I only paid $3.59. We have Where the Crawdads Sing. In this movie, I think it's now on Netflix, and I've always wanted to read this book for the last, I don't know, 3 years, and I've never seen it out, and now all of a sudden it's all over the place. It was in Savers, it was in Goodwill. Now my most expensive book on this list is also probably my most popular book that you will see in this whole video. I had to buy it from Amazon for $19.52, and that's because it was sold out everywhere. And with that being said, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It is The Fourth Wing, but the one that I ordered apparently did not have the edging. I don't know if it's because it was from Amazon. I know a lot of people on Amazon still took a photo and they had edging, so I don't know. Somebody said it was the Barnes & Noble's edition, and in all honesty, as much as that looks so pretty and I don't have any pages of any book that is painted, I think technically, for my sake or my opinion, that the edging that's white, I think the pages look so much better. So I know a lot of people are buying this book, and I'm kind of scared to read it just because the next book won't be out until I think the end of 2023. I'm not 100% positive, and I don't know how many books are going to be in that series, but this is really high on my TBR, and I really want to read it, but I'm also kind of nervous to read it. I don't know how to explain it, but the feel of like just the pages when you're flipping through it and when you're just holding it, this book feels so good in my hands, and I don't know if it's because I actually bought a brand new book and not a used book or what, but I think this is going to be an all-around fun experience with this book, just also because of how it feels in my hand, if that makes sense. Since I've always collected Nancy Drew books and also Hardy Boys, I've kind of collected throughout the years because I was given some books from my neighbor after she passed away, and I've always had Agatha Christie. So I found this collections, and this is actually from the 60s, and I just thought it was real cool. I like the binding. It's more of like the leather binding, and so we have, hey, my name's in here. It says, you can't see it, but it says my name. I didn't even know that. I opened straight to it, and that was the first thing I seen. It has a little collection of stories, so I have a few more stories, but I found this at Savers for only $2.99. Then at Goodwill, both of these books, it's a complete series or a duology, they were both hardcovers for $2.99, and I only paid $2.69. They are from the author who wrote Divergent, and when I seen them, I thought the covers were really pretty, like basic but pretty at the same time, and they looked really intriguing to me, so I'm hoping they're really good. I'm only 15 pages into this one in particular, but we have Carve the Mark and also The Fates Divide, and I just think the spine spines and also the covers. They look really pretty, and so far I have to say I'm okay with this book. I'm hoping it will get better. Like I said, I'm only 15 pages into it, so I'm not very far. But the one thing I can't stand sometimes with fantasies, with dystopian, sci-fi, it doesn't really matter. This book in particular, there are just some where it just seems like she decided to make up a name or make up a place, and literally how she made it up was she just randomly pressed on the keyboard like multiple different letters. Where they live is Thuvhe, which I think it's like thug. I don't know. Thuvist is how they like talk about themselves, is Thuvist. I don't know. See, just like words like that. That's the only issue I have with this book, or just in general. Then at Goodwill for $4.99, which I paid $4.49, we have, and I know this is like the book 3 of a book 7 series, we have The Queen of Air and Darkness. This is by Cassandra Clare. I do have the Infernal Devices, so you have Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince, and then I think Princess. I can't see the third one, but I do have this book set that my mom actually bought for me, and I have a few other books from her, but for the most part, I don't actually have a whole series besides that one series, and I want to kind of collect them a little bit more so I can read the Shadowhunter world. And I seen this one for relatively cheap at Goodwill, so I did pick it up. It is kind of chunky, and I thought at first this was the same series that was, I think it's like a yellow book, and a lot of people have been reading it. It's very popular. I think it was just released, and it's like Chain of Gold or something like that. I thought it was the same series as that, and apparently this is a completely different series, but still in the Shadowhunter universe. At Savers for $2.49, I seen a book that I've had for a few years on my TBR, and it is We Are Liars, or We Were Liars, and I do believe there's technically a first book, Family of Liars, or give or take. I can insert a photo right here. Then I found You'll Be the Death of Me, and this is the same author who wrote One of Us is Lying. I have that book. I don't have the second or the third in that series, but I do have that first one, and I will eventually read it. And I did pick this one up because at first I thought it was in the same series as that. I found it at Goodwill for $4.99, but because of military and also because of the color of the day, I only paid $2.50 for this book. At Goodwill for $3.99, but I paid $3.59. We have All the Light We Cannot See. I used to see this all over the place on BookTube and Book Instagram and Book Talk, and all of a sudden I feel like nobody ever read it, nobody talked about it. It just kind of fell off the face of the earth. This is the first time I've ever seen it in a thrift store. Then we have a fun little series that everybody, I feel like, obsessed about this or started reading it, and then they never continued the series. It just kind of also fell off the face of the earth to a point. I found the whole series in Goodwill, and at first I found the paperback for the first book. In Goodwill, this paperback was $3.99, but I paid $3.59. It is the Renegades. Yesterday, I went back to Goodwill. Granted, when we first found the paperback, it was weeks ago. Honestly, it was probably a month ago now, but yesterday I went back, and for $2.99, I found the actual hardcover, and so I only paid $2.69. So we went from $3.99 for the paperback to $2.99, so a whole $1 difference in literally just hardback versus paperback, and usually the hardbacks are more expensive. We have Renegades in hardback, and then also at Goodwill for $4.99, but I paid $4.49 for each of these. We have Arch Enemies, and then the last one, which is Supernova. So this was a complete series, originally with the first one being paperback. I found just randomly sitting, honestly, like this on the shelf. It was the last shelf I looked at. There was a big giant space, and this is how it was sitting, and I was honestly so shocked to see it. I did pick this up weeks ago, and then yesterday, like I said, I found the hardcover. So now we have the whole series in hardcover, and I just feel like this looks so much better. Years ago, I read Airborne. I think this was 5 years ago. I've wanted to reread this. I had such a fun time, but this is large print version. It's huge, and honestly, I didn't know there was a second. There's also a third book to this. I don't know if this is sci-fi or just fantasy. I can't remember. That's why I wanted to reread it, but this I had so much fun reading. But at Las Vegas Books yesterday for $5.99 each, I found Airborne again in hardcover, but also book 2, and that's the only reason I picked this one up, is because book 2 was in hardcover, and since it was almost a complete series, I have to buy the third one. Honestly, it'll be still around $5. I'm so excited to reread this, and then also read a second one that I never knew existed. I do like how these spines look. They look really pretty. They're very simple, but even though they were $6, I was really happy to see those because I was in a bookstore where I didn't necessarily see anything that I recognized, and then that was the first book that I recognized. I looked up and I seen the spine, and I got really excited because I had just been thinking about rereading that book for a while now. Next at Goodwill, we technically have what was once a complete series, but I think there's a fourth book now. I just picked it up for $1.79 each book, but they were $1.99. We first have Legend, and don't mind this little area right here. There was a obnoxious sticker, and there's still so much residue because I cannot for the life of me get the sticker off. It was so hard to get off. So we do have Legend, then Prodigy, and And then lastly, Champion. And like I said, I think there's a last one. It's purple. And I think it just recently came out because it's like $20, I do believe. So I found the complete series, At Least Once Upon a Time, at Goodwill. And I only spent, I think, between the three of them, $4 or maybe $5. Also yesterday in Goodwill for $3.99, but I paid $3.59. I found everything. And I remember a lot of people back in 2019, 2020 were constantly reading this book and hyping it up all over the place. And I finally am starting to see those older booktube, book talk books coming around, and some of the newer ones. I'm excited to finally get to those older ones and see what the hype was about. Then, like I said, since I collect Nancy Drew and Hardy Boy books, I've been trying to collect the older ones, especially with Nancy Drew, because the newer ones, they put a lot more like feminism in it, and I'd rather just have the original stories. I don't like when people change things just to make it more political or add more unnecessary stuff in them. With that being said, I am still collecting the older stuff when it comes to the Hardy Boys, not the first editions, because those are like rare. They go for $50+, but I did find like newer gin, but still old. So this is more like, I think the second edition. It might be the third are these ones. So they have the blue spines. They're not like the new ones that look like this from the early 2000s, I do believe. And I found the 12th one, Footprints Under the Window. This was at the Las Vegas Books for $3.99. And then my last two books are from the same author, and these are ones, like I said, that are really hyped up in the last couple years that are finally making their way around. Yesterday at Savers for $2.49, I found a novella technically, and it is Maybe Not. I already had Maybe Someday. I specifically like this version of the cover more than the revamped. It was so hard to find this novella like this, and I think the last one, which is Maybe Now, is an actual book, or maybe it's another novella, I don't know. But that book, which apparently this whole series is like the worst series to read by Colleen Hoover, is also the first book I've ever picked up by her. That last book is so hard to find in this cover, and I personally love this edition more. I'm trying to find the last one. And then also at Savers, the very last book I found for $2.99, and this thing is heavy. For a paperback, this thing has some weight to it. I found Colleen Hoover's Verity. Apparently this is a thriller or a mystery, something like that. This book though, like I said, this thing is so heavy, but it's like not necessarily floppy. It is a little stiff, but it's more of like the felt, and it just feels good in your hand. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of you have already read this, but like I said, I've never read a Colleen Hoover book, so I don't know which one to pick up. I'll probably pick up this one first just because I do believe this is a standalone. That is all 53 books that I am book hauling for this whole video, but I want to go through my total. So between all 53 books, if I count everything that I specifically paid, this is not including tax, because since I went multiple different times over the course of multiple months, I had multiple different days worth of taxes, and I think Nevada tax is like 7 or 8. I don't know, it's absurd compared to where my husband and I are from. So with the total of 53 books, I spent the total of $199.56, literally 46 cents shy of $200, which is absurd. But also when you think of how new books, if I would have bought these at like Barnes and Nobles, even the ones that are like older, if Barnes and Nobles carried them, I would have been spending at least $10 per book. So I'm gonna count myself lucky, because if I would have just paid $5 for every single book that I bought, even though I got some for free, some for 25 cents, and some for less than $5, I would have spent $265 alone. So I did spend a lot, but at the same time, it was over the course of many, many months. So pretty much if we broke it down by just 3 months, I spent about $60 a month. I do kind of buy books a lot. I would try and go thrifting about once a month, maybe twice, depending on what type of trips my husband is on. Since he's on the Thunderbirds, sometimes he's gone for 2 weeks, sometimes he's gone for a whole month. So sometimes I just need to clear my mind, get out, do something different, not think about him being gone. And I will go thrift multiple times, but at the most that I'm spending at each of those thrifting trips is only $20, or I try to keep it around $20. I hope you guys all enjoyed my book haul video. I've been so excited to share these books for so long, and at the start I only had 38 books, or I think at the start I only had 10 or 12 books, and then I added to 38, and now I'm at 53. It was hard to keep some of these a secret, and then some of them were in reading vlogs, but I'm so glad that I finally got to do this video, got this one thing crossed off my list, and I can move on to the next. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope to see y'all next week, and God bless.